Sometimes the old feeling comes back, and you immediately think you lost everything. You felt calm for a while. You were responding differently. You were not checking as much. You were not reacting the same way. You were finally starting to feel like maybe the manifesting state was becoming real. Then one old feeling shows up. One trigger, one familiar reaction, one moment where your body tightens, your thoughts speed up, or your old story tries to speak again. And suddenly your mind says, I'm back where I started. But you may not be back where you started. You may simply be seeing the pattern clearly for the first time. And that is a very different thing, because when you are truly back inside the old state, you do not usually recognize it as a pattern. You just believe it. You believe the fear. You believe the interpretation. You believe the rejection. You believe the delay means something bad. You believe the silence means nothing is happening. You believe the old emotion is telling you the truth. But when the manifesting state starts becoming more stable, something different happens. The old feeling may still appear, but now there is a part of you watching it. There is a part of you that can say, wait, I know this feeling. I know this response. This is the old pattern. That awareness matters. It may not feel dramatic. It may not feel like a breakthrough, but it is one of the clearest signs that you are no longer fully asleep inside the old identity. Let's make this real. Maybe you have been working on not chasing someone's reaction. You have been practicing staying grounded. You have been reminding yourself that you do not need every text, tone, or delay to define your worth. And for a few days, you feel steady. Then someone takes longer to respond, or their message is shorter than usual, or they seem a little distracted. And suddenly, the old feeling rises. Your stomach drops. Your mind starts looking for meaning. You feel the urge to fix the energy immediately. The old version of you would have gone all the way in. You would have replayed the conversation. You would have written and deleted a message. You would have tried to figure out what changed. You would have made their mood a statement about your value. But this time, even though the old feeling shows up, something else is present too. You notice it. You catch it faster. You do not fully become it. That is not nothing. That is the state becoming more real. Or maybe you have been working on money, work, purpose, or stability. You have been trying to move from the identity of someone who is supported, capable, and not always behind. Then one bill appears, one slow day happens, one opportunity takes longer than expected, and the old pressure comes back. The old thought says, see, nothing is changing. You're behind. You need to panic. You need to force something now. And for a moment, it feels familiar. But then you notice, this is the same pressure I used to live from. This is the same urgency that used to make every decision heavier. This is the old default. That moment of recognition is powerful because now the old pattern is not invisible anymore. You can see it. And what you can see, you can stop worshiping. You can stop treating it like truth. You can stop treating every old reaction as evidence that you failed. That is where people often get confused. They think progress means the old feeling never appears again. But progress often means you relate to the old feeling differently. The feeling appears, but it does not own the whole room. The thought appears, but it does not get the final word. The fear appears, but you do not build your identity around it again. That is growth, not perfection, growth. And this matters because the old identity does not always leave quietly. Sometimes it shows up when you are tired. Sometimes it shows up when something gets close. Sometimes it shows up when life feels quiet. Sometimes it shows up right after a breakthrough because the nervous system is trying to return to what used to feel familiar. That does not mean the new state is fake. It means the old pattern has history. It has repetition. It has emotional muscle memory. So when it appears, the goal is not to panic and say, I lost the state. The goal is to pause and ask, What is this showing me? Is this showing me an old fear, an old interpretation, an old way of protecting myself, an old habit of assuming the worst, an old habit of shrinking, an old habit of chasing proof? That question brings you back into awareness, and awareness is part of the new state, because the old version of you reacted automatically. The newer version notices. The old version believed every feeling. The newer version questions the meaning. The old version collapsed into the pattern. The newer version can pause long enough to choose. This is why you should not judge yourself just because an old reaction appeared. The reaction appearing is not the whole story. The real question is, what happened after you noticed it? Did you spiral for 3 days, or did you catch it in 3 hours? Did you send the desperate message, or did you wait and regulate first? Did you abandon your standard, or did you recognize the urge and return? Did you make one uncomfortable moment mean your whole identity failed? Or did you let the moment show you where the old pattern still wants attention? That is the difference. And if you are honest, you may already be improving. Maybe the same thing that used to ruin your whole day now only pulls you for 20 minutes. Maybe the same silence that used to send you into panic now just creates a small wave of discomfort. Maybe the same uncertainty that used to make you force everything now simply reminds you to slow down. That is not being back at the beginning. That is becoming more stable. Because the state does not only become real when you feel perfect, the state becomes real when you can meet imperfection without abandoning yourself. That is the part people miss. They think the manifesting state means constant confidence, constant peace, constant certainty, constant high vibration. But real embodiment is not that fragile. Real embodiment can handle a human moment. It can handle an old feeling passing through. It can handle a nervous system reaction without turning it into an identity. That is what you are learning. You are not learning how to never feel anything again. You are learning how to stop letting every feeling become the authority. That is a major shift. So when the old pattern comes back, do not immediately argue with it. Do not shame yourself for it. Do not say, I knew I wasn't really changing. Say something more honest. Say, this is old. This is familiar. This is the pattern I used to live from. And now I can choose how I respond. Then choose one small response from the new identity. Not a huge transformation. One response. If the old pattern wants you to chase, pause. If the old pattern wants you to over-explain, simplify. If the old pattern wants you to assume the worst, wait before assigning meaning. If the old pattern wants you to force an outcome, return to the next grounded action. If the old pattern wants you to collapse into shame, speak to yourself with more steadiness. That is how the new state gets stronger, not by pretending the old pattern never shows up, but by no longer handing it the steering wheel every time it does. And over time, this changes you. The gap gets wider, the pause gets stronger, the return gets faster. The old feeling may still appear, but it starts losing authority. It starts becoming a signal instead of a sentence. A signal that says, here is where the old identity is still used to protecting you. Not, this is who you are forever. That difference is everything. Because when you stop calling every old feeling a relapse, you stop reinforcing the idea that you are fragile. You begin to see yourself as someone who can return, someone who can catch the pattern, someone who can notice the old interpretation and still choose the new identity. That is the manifesting state in real life. Not a perfect mood, not a flawless day, not a life where nothing ever triggers you, but a new relationship with the old pattern. A relationship where you can see it without becoming it, where you can feel it without obeying it, where you can notice it without worshiping it. So if the old feeling came back recently, do not rush to call it failure. Ask yourself, am I truly back where I started? Or am I finally conscious enough to see the pattern that used to run me? Because if you can see it, you are not the same person who used to be lost inside it. And if you can pause, even for a moment, something has changed. You are not back where you were. You are just catching the pattern now. And every time you catch it, return, and choose differently, the manifesting state becomes more real in you. Subscribe and enter your manifesting state.